Welcome, everyone. Today we're reading stories from Reddit's Tales from the Front Desk, which is a subreddit for stories from hotel or hospitality workers. First story from user Best One Hero. So, this guy came down yesterday morning to complain that the coffee maker in his room wasn't working. He was pretty polite about it and said it wasn't super urgent. He would just need it to be working by the following morning. I told him I would make sure it was looked at and made a note for someone to check and or replace his coffee maker. Cue this morning when he comes down and is a little less polite as he slams the coffee maker down on the front desk. He was like, "This thing definitely isn't working still." So I'm all like, "Sorry to hear that. Did someone go up yesterday to take a look?" He says that someone did and fiddled around with it for a few minutes and had then told him it was working. He wasn't fully shouting, but he definitely had his voice raised as he was like, "I'd like to see your maintenance guy brew a cup with this. Tell him I'd like to see that." I told him that the lobby coffee had just been made fresh a few minutes ago and he was welcome to have some. Well, I took a look. I plugged in the coffee maker and flipped open the top only to see that it was bone dry in there. There couldn't have been any water in there in at least the past few hours, if not longer. And he seemed too agitated to have carefully dried it out before coming stomping down to the desk. So I was like, just out of curiosity, "Did you put any water in it?" He immediately said yes, then paused to think about it and asked, "Is there no water in it?" I showed him and he insisted that there had definitely been water in it yesterday. So I grabbed some water to pour it in to test out, and it worked exactly like it's supposed to. I've never seen a grown man look so embarrassed as he took the coffee maker to slink back to the elevator. It took all my restraint to not start laughing until he was out of the lobby. Unfortunately, I'm sad to admit that I have actually done that before. It sounds so ridiculous, but yes. Well, I did fill the pitcher with water, but I never poured it into the tank of the drip coffee machine, and so I sympathize. It's really funny how we call them like brain farts. We can just forget to do something so essential. Like sometimes I feel like I just forgot how to like tie my shoes even. It feels ridiculous, but I think it's something we can all relate to. Always hilarious circumstances ensue. One commenter wrote, "If I had to speculate, pure speculation, guy has a Keurig at home. Guy never fills the water reservoir at home and always makes his partner or cohabitant do it. Don't be that person. Terrible karma." That's a great case of some internet detective work. And that's a funny case, as these new technologies come into our lives and these conveniences, we're beginning to forget the old ways of doing things, which are still used, funny enough, in a lot of cases, like a lot of office spaces where there's older technology, like fax machine. I can't believe I've been asked to explain how to use a fax machine. Here's another story from the same subreddit from user Ultimate Ace 43. So, about 10 years ago, I was working in a hotel as a night auditor. I was sitting at the front desk working on my reports when this really drunk guy comes stumbling in at about 3 a.m. I could barely understand him, but I politely chatted with him for 5 or 10 minutes before he made his way around the corner and headed towards the elevator. I went back to my work, and a few moments later, I got a phone call. The caller ID said that it was coming from the phone in the elevator. Confused, I answered it and was immediately greeted by a weak, pleading, "Help me." So I dropped the phone, didn't even hang it up, and sprinted to the elevator. I opened the doors to find the drunk sitting cross legged on the floor with his back against the wall and the phone in his hands. He looked up at me and just goes, "Press floor 3, please." At the time, I was furious, but looking back now, that was some funny stuff. LOL. Good on that writer for helping out and being quick to help out in that case. I know it's a silly example, and definitely, that guy brought it upon himself. But uh, unfortunately, he probably did need the help, and hopefully, he got some more help because that seems like a alcohol problem for sure. Another story, same subreddit by user Marilyn Audrey. This one involves a PM shift on a Saturday. I'm an AM shift person and I go to bed early. If absolutely needed, I will work PM shifts, but I absolutely hate them. But to each their own. I came in on Saturday to a rush of check ins, everybody wanting their room and wanting it now. After the rush, which thankfully only lasted an hour, I got a call from the front desk phone. The number was withheld, which doesn't always indicate a red flag, but on the side of caution, I don't use my name until I've verified it's a legitimate call. Here's the call. Me, thank you for calling the hotel. How can I help you this afternoon? Guest, I think I left some items in my room. Would you be able to have housekeeping grab them? Me, certainly. May I have your last name and room number? He gave me the information. I looked up his room. It's a prepaid third party and it's still in-house for another night. Me, it looks like your reservation is for another night. Would you like us to collect your items for you? I'm fully prepared with the speech about prepaid reservations and refunds and blah blah, but then he answers, "Guest, no, actually, I don't want anybody up in my room. I was told it would be best to come back at night. Is that true?" Me, "Oh, well, we do have someone at the desk 24/7, so you're more than welcome to come collect new keys if you have your ID." Guest, no thank you. I was drugged by angels last night, and they told me I had to complete some tasks. I can't come back until it's night. Me, okay, sir. He hangs up, and I just kind of sit there, stunned in silence. I decide it might be a good idea to go lock out the room, and from there, maybe call the police if the guest does show up. I tell my coworker I'm headed upstairs and grab a new key. I knock on the door before inserting the key into the lock, but someone on the other side opens it. I'm confused. They're confused. I apologize and let them know I assumed this room was vacant. It must have been a mistake. They seemed fine and they said it was okay, but they had the room until tomorrow. Okay, weird. I go downstairs and start informing my coworker and the weekend manager about the situation. They're on alert in case anything happens. About 2 hours later, a guest walks up and my coworker starts to greet them. Lo and behold, it's sketchy phone guy. Turns out the room is in his name, so we give him his keys after verifying his ID. He and his friend head over to the elevators, but they stop short of actually going upstairs. The guy whose name is actually on the room seems genuinely freaked out, and I do feel bad for him. That lasted about 30 seconds. They came back and we kept our customer service smiles on when we asked if there was something else we could assist them with. Guest, no, I was over there, and now I'm over here. He was leaning on the front desk counter and going through his phone. He had already called the police and was now asking one of us to go upstairs and escort him to their room. I didn't even have a chance to say no before my manager told them we would not be doing that. If they felt unsafe going up alone, the police would be contacted again for them. My manager did call the police again, and the two waited in the lobby. He started saying some weird things and asking us if we knew someone named Yolanda. I didn't want to agitate him further, so I gave some vague and monosyllabic answers in order to keep him from bothering my coworker who is newer and hasn't dealt with the hotel crazies yet. I said I wasn't sure if I knew a Yolanda, and his speech afterward was jarring, to say the least. Guest, you're not sure? How are you not sure? I think you're a liar. This is what I get for talking to him in the first place. The writer says, I think you know Yolanda, and you know she's very cold. She wants you to know that she's cold, but she forgives you, you know? Yolanda has forgiven you. Newsflash, I do not know a Yolanda. I stopped answering, but good God, why is it always Saturday nights? He then came back up to the desk, took his sticky note and a pen, wrote something on it, then placed it back on my side of the desk. I did not look at it. Finally, the police arrive and ask what's going on. The guy goes on about angels, drugs, and the two men upstairs. The officer walks them upstairs, and about 20 minutes later, a group of 10 people, including the pair who got the keys from us, are being led out of the hotel by the officer. She doesn't stop by and fills us in on anything, and we assume everyone is gone. Nope. Next day, the two people who had answered the door when I went to go lock out the room the day before were in the breakfast area and went back up to the room like they hadn't had the cops called on them yesterday. They checked out without further incident, and we found evidence they were smoking at the very least in the room, and we charged them a smoking fee. Haven't seen them since, and he's been DNR'd. I believe that means not allowed to return. The sticky note message he wrote me just read, she says she's cold, understand? Well, Yolanda, if you're out there, put on a jacket. Man, it is so scary when people act unpredictable or are possibly mentally ill, or this person sounds like they were just on some drugs, unfortunately. And especially if you're at work and you're responsible for what happens, that's a really tight position to be in. I'm glad it worked out without too much incident to the writer, but that's always scary and you never know what to predict. Fortunately, in those crazy situations, usually just talking to the person seems to de escalate things pretty good, but you never know. Things could always escalate. So, anyways, glad it was a decently happy ending, though very nerve wracking for the writer. Hey, that's all for today. So it's been great having you with us today. I'd appreciate if you could tell someone about the show, but I'll catch you next time on the next safari.